This man, 27-year-old Steven Kazmierczak, opened fire in a classroom, killing 5 people before taking his own life.
Gunshots and you're like army crawling up. I just kept thinking of it over and over and over. I'm gonna die.
I still can't even grasp it. Like it comes in waves.
In our first episode of University of Murder, A Valentine's Massacre, we trace the events of February 14th, 2008, the 6 minutes that forever changed Northern Illinois University. We walked through the chaos of that afternoon and remembered the 5 students whose lives were stolen. But to understand the full story, we have to step back. Who was the man who opened fire inside Cole Hall? How did he go from decorated student to mass shooter? And in those same moments of terror, who stood up, who shielded others, and who became the heroes of that day? In this episode, we uncover the troubled life of Steven Kazmierczak, the warning signs that went unnoticed, and the unraveling path that led him to Valentine's Day. Then, we turn to the other side of the story, the courage of students, faculty, and first responders who acted with selflessness in the face of horror. Because while this story begins with violence, it does not end there.
I was sitting 3rd row in the classroom, and the guy walked in through the kind of the teacher's exit, just walked from there with a shotgun and started shooting people.
By all appearances, Steven Kazmierczak was a success story. A 27-year-old graduate student at Northern Illinois University, he was bright, well-spoken, and even decorated for his academic research. But appearances can deceive. Beneath the surface was a man struggling with demons, mental illness, isolation, and a growing obsession with violence. On Valentine's Day, 2008, those demons won. Steven Kazmierczak was born in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, in 1980. His father, Robert, was a postal worker, while his mother, Gail, was a secretary. By all accounts, he was close with his mother, with whom he shared a love of horror movies. On the other hand, the same cannot be said of his relationship with his older sister, Susan. They did not get along, and Susan reported that Steven's behavior in the home was a major source of disruption and chaos in the home. In both grade school and high school, teachers described him as motivationally inconsistent, disruptive, and otherwise having behaved inappropriately. Some of his teachers reported having suspicions he may have had a learning disability or an attention deficit problem. Additionally, he was reported as having a negative attitude and as behaviorally careless and impulsive. Late in adolescence, his disturbed behavior escalated.
We've also learned that the Elk Grove Village native spent time at a Northwest Side Psychiatric Treatment Center in Chicago.
Between December 1996 and February of 1998, he attempted self-deletion on 7 separate occasions. Still, he managed to graduate high school in June 1998. However, that success was short-lived, as he was admitted to inpatient psychiatric care later that month after he exhibited renewed interest in self-deletion. In 1999, he was moved to a second inpatient facility, where he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, schizoid personality traits, and psychosocial stressors. He was prescribed medication that helped with these mental issues, but they caused him to balloon to over 300 pounds. Eventually, he stopped taking the medication, due, in part, to the side effects, and was forced to leave treatment due to non-compliance. Post-high school, Kazmierczak worked a number of retail-oriented jobs, none of which lasted long. And in September 2001, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. Surprisingly, the military was good for his mental health. The structure seemed to be exactly what his restless mind needed. However, this uptick in fortune would not last long, as it was discovered in early 2002 that he had omitted his history of mental health issues and self-deletion attempts from his enlistment application. His medical history disqualified him from service, and he was separated from the Army in February 2002. In August 2002, Kazmierczak enrolled at NIU and began classes at the university during that fall term. His start at NIU was a bit rocky. He did not initially fit in with his roommate or other student in the dorm. Eventually, though, Steven found his stride at NIU. He majored in sociology, diving into questions of crime, deviance, and human behavior. Professors remembered him as intelligent, focused, even charming in his own understated way. Although he was never destined to be the most popular guy on campus, to classmates, Steven seemed stable, serious, and deeply invested in his studies. He had a girlfriend, friends, and academic mentors who saw him as a promising scholar. But that was only part of the story. Kazmierczak graduated in May 2006 and was awarded a Bachelor of Arts degree. He majored in sociology with an emphasis in criminology and had a second major in political science/public administration. Kazmierczak graduated summa cum laude with a cumulative grade point average of 3.88. He also received a Dean's Award for academic achievement.
The shooter, apparently he was given some awards and things like that. Are you familiar with him?
My understanding, as of this morning, this is a student who graduated their undergraduate degree here in 2006 and then continued graduate studies in sociology through the spring of 2007, and by all indications is a very good academic record, had worked well with professors, and there's nothing in the record that we can tell at this time where there was any issue.
This is where his story takes an unfortunate turn. Starting in September 2006, when his mother died of ALS, aka Lou Gehrig's disease, Kazmierczak suffered a series of setbacks that seemed to have caused a backslide into a bad mental state. At the time of his mother's death, the two were estranged and had not been able to resolve their differences. The following spring, budget cuts forced NIU to make a drastic reduction in its graduate program in sociology, including his place in the program. The sudden loss of this thing that brought him tremendous success was jarring, to say the least. Kazmierczak was forced to leave DeKalb, and all of the people there who believed in him there, and resume his studies at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, over 2 hours from DeKalb. Things would just never be the same for him, as his fragile mental state began to circle the drain. In the months leading up to the shooting, something shifted. Steven began to withdraw from friends, from his girlfriend, from the stability he had built. He stopped taking his medication. He grew more erratic, more distant. At the same time, his fascination with mass shootings deepened. Columbine, Virginia Tech. He studied the details, obsessed over the killers, and began shaping his own dark plan. By late 2007, Steven was stockpiling weapons. He legally purchased a shotgun and handguns.
Steven Kazmierczak may have been planning this shooting rampage for weeks. On February 9th, he bought guns in Champaign, where he currently goes to U of I, and then he traveled 170 miles to DeKalb, where he opened fire on a group of students that he didn't even know.
He was methodical, deliberate, and secretive. In early February 2008, Steven began pulling away completely. Phone calls unanswered, messages left hanging.
I knew it was not the one that walked into Gold Hall and did that. I mean, that wasn't the Steve I knew, and he was anything but a monster. He was probably the nicest, most caring person ever.
He spent increasing time alone, finalizing a plan he told no one about. On February 9th, he walked into a Champaign gun shop and purchased his final weapon, a 9mm Glock pistol.
This is the Champaign gun shop where he had legally purchased 2 of his guns on February 9th.
I was just shocked, absolutely 100% shocked. It's just, what are the chances like this, that something like this could happen twice inside of a year's time?
Valentine's Day, 2008. For most students, it was a day of flowers, chocolates, and plans for dinner. For Steven, it was a day of preparation. He'd been holed up in a Travelodge motel for 3 days, chain-smoking cigarettes and downing energy drinks.
The Associated Press was able to get cameras inside this hotel room where Steve Kazmierczak spent 2 days before carrying out his deadly shooting rampage at Northern Illinois University. The owner of the Travelodge tells the AP that a police bomb squad entered the room and that authorities then conducted a detailed search. He says police were able to find and confiscate a laptop computer that was left there. However, authorities left behind other items, including an empty wallet and luggage that was filled with clothes. There were also a half-dozen Red Bulls and at least 8 Mountain Dews, as well as microwavable foods and dozens of pills, which appeared to be mostly over-the-counter decongestants. The owner says Kazmierczak paid for the room with cash and did not check out before Thursday when the shooting occurred.
Kazmierczak left behind a duffel bag in the hotel room, its zipper sealed shut with glue. A DeKalb police bomb squad has opened the bag that, according to the Chicago Tribune, contained ammunition.
He sat there in the dingy room, either psyching himself up or trying to talk himself down. No one knows which one it was, or maybe it was both. We will never know. That morning, he mailed a package to his ex-girlfriend. Inside were personal effects, books, and a note that hinted at what was to come.
An excellent psychologist or social worker someday. Don't forget about me. Love, Steven.
Those are the last words of 27-year-old Steven Kazmierczak in a note sent to his girlfriend, Jessica Beatty, on Valentine's Day.
And either the day or just a day after the shooting at NIU, she received a note from Steven in the mail, part of a cryptic package from Kazmierczak. In the parcel were her boyfriend's books, including a book written by a German philosopher titled The Antichrist, a book the Chicago Tribune says he's believed to have been reading. Included in the package to his girlfriend was an empty gun holster from an online gun shop. Beatty says she knew Steven had purchased guns recently, but he told her it was for protection.
Then he drove to DeKalb, to Cole Hall. How does someone so promising turn into a mass shooter? That question has haunted NIU ever since. Some point to his mental illness, the medications he abandoned, the warning signs that went unnoticed. Others point to the easy access to firearms, the copycat effect of previous mass shootings. The truth is likely all of these, or none. We have no definitive explanation, only guesses. What we do know is this. By the time Steven walked into Cole Hall at 3:06 p.m., the outcome was already sealed. In less than 6 minutes, he would transform a lecture hall into a nightmare.
And the really sad thing here is that we may never know exactly what prompted him to come here and kill five students, I should say. Autopsies being done on those 5 student victims right now, as well as the gunman.
February 14th, 2008, Cole Hall was supposed to be just another lecture. Instead, it became the site of chaos and terror. But even in the middle of horror, there were moments that revealed the best of us. Moments of courage, instinct, and selflessness. But this story is not only about the man who destroyed, it is also about the people who, in those same moments, revealed extraordinary courage. Students, faculty, first responders. When violence erupted, so did instinct, the instinct to protect one another. Some students threw themselves between the gunmen and their friends. Others grabbed a hand, pulled someone to their feet, and ran. A few shielded classmates with their own bodies, absorbing bullets that might have claimed another life.
One of the wounded is a former intern here at WGN. He worked with Tom Skilling in the weather office. Patrick Corellis was shot in the neck. He's okay, we're hearing, and may be released from the hospital later today. Corellis is a senior. He's a double major in meteorology and geography. He's from Lindenhurst and graduated from Antioch High School in 2004.
Patrick Corellis didn't know if it was real at first.
I remember that day, very, minute by minute, everything that happened. I didn't realize it was real until the 3rd or 4th shot, and I got under my desk and hid, and he just kept shooting.
Moments later, he felt a blow to the back of his head, bullet fragment or shrapnel. Then, in the brief lull when the shooter reloaded, he fled. Outside, Patrick shouted, "Gunman in the classroom! Call 911!" His voice helped draw attention and urgency to the panic. He later recounted, "I was shot twice but survived. 5 of my classmates' lives were taken that day. and an additional 21 of us were injured. To this day, he continues to lobby for gun law reforms at the state and federal level.
Gunman was mentally ill, was able to easily access guns online from the same online dealer that the Virginia Tech shooter did, and it's just, I just want to close some of those loopholes. I just hope for a change, but I always look forward to see what I've accomplished today and where I'm at today, and I'm very happy. So.
Tim Meyerbach, a Husky lineman, looked around and saw someone down. Didn't matter that he didn't know the person. He lifted them, carried them out to safety, stayed with them all the way to the ambulance until the family came. In those moments, he became someone's lifeline. He was later honored prior to the next home football game.
One of those also wounded was grad student Joseph Peterson. Peterson told the Sun-Times he was in the middle of teaching a geology class when the gunman entered Cole Hall and opened fire. Peterson says when the gunman ran out of ammunition for his shotgun, he pulled out a handgun and targeted him. Peterson says the gunman chased him as he ran for the exit door. Peterson was shot in the shoulder but was able to get away. He says he never saw the gunman before.
Faculty did not hesitate. Professors and teaching assistants shouted for students to get down, to run, to find safety. Some stood their ground, guiding panicked young people toward the doors. Their voices cut through the noise, anchoring frightened minds to survival. Joe Peterson, the instructor, tried doors, crawled over students. When some students froze, he urged them. When the shooting aimed, he dodged. Wounded, in shock, but still helping others, trying to lead, trying to protect. Even as pain came, his focus was on getting people out. Later, in 2023, he described his initial reaction to the situation. The first few seconds of it happening, my thoughts were literally this could be a training exercise. But that was literally 1 or 2 seconds.
I was grazed in the shoulder with a 9mm and got to the next building over, and there were a bunch of students in a computer lab, and I told them there'd been a shooting in Cole Hall. Get away from the doors, get away from the windows, call 911, and just ran down the hall to every classroom I could find and warned people to get to safety.
Maria Ruiz Santana sat in the 5th row, writing notes, thinking about nothing unusual, until the stage door burst open. A shotgun blast tore through the front of the lab. Maria was hit in the neck, the force of the shot ripping through her esophagus. She could barely breathe. I don't think I can survive this, she thought. But she did. Police Chief Donald Grady, already on scene, lifted her legs, asked questions, anything to keep her conscious. Maria later told reporters, "That's when I was kind of like, okay, Maria, forget about dying because you're not going to die, you're going to be okay. That's why I consider him my hero." Around her, friends were bleeding, but Maria didn't give up. She was airlifted to the hospital. Later, she not only survived, she became a police officer. Survival took many forms that day. Some students crawled down aisles littered with backpacks and blood, willing themselves forward inch by inch. Others hid beneath chairs, trying to silence their own breathing as the shooting continued. Friends carried the injured, their clothing soaked in blood, refusing to leave them behind. These stories are hard to hear, but they matter, because they remind us that in the darkest moments, human courage still shines. The NIU community endured unspeakable loss, but it also revealed something unbreakable, the instinct to protect one another, even when everything was falling apart. 5 students dead, 17 wounded, a campus in shock. 6 minutes of horror changed Northern Illinois University forever. But in those same 6 minutes, we also saw the very best of humanity. Students, faculty, and first responders whose courage saved lives. Their stories remind us that even in the darkest moments, light can break through. But the story doesn't end here. In our next episode, we step beyond the walls of Cole Hall to look at what came after. The investigation into the shooter, the conclusions that were reached, and the hard questions about what changes could be made, and whether those changes were ever implemented in a meaningful way at NIU, or anywhere else for that matter. How did NIU and the nation respond to yet another campus tragedy? And what lessons are we still struggling to learn? If you found this story meaningful, please press like and subscribe to University of Murder. We'll continue exploring the tragedy at Northern Illinois University and all things crime on campus. Your support helps us tell these stories, honor the victims, and shine a light on the places where safety and violence collide. Next time, we dive deep into the university and law enforcement's investigations.